grass-fed whey protein, you get a starter kit absolutely free. You get this shaker bottle. You also get 5 single-serving packs of their top flavors so you can figure out which one you like the best. By clicking the link in the description or hitting the QR code, you can get 10% off your first order that applies at checkout. Thank you to Transparent Labs for sponsoring the video. Now that we got that out the way, I like to talk about, oh my God, what's that smell? Oh, there you go, Sam Skunk! And y'all wanna know what rhymes with skunk? Somebody has their panties in a bunch. CM Punk goes on Instagram and he says, "We unfortunately have to have this conversation again. Do not turn up at airports. Do not show up at hotels. I cannot believe I have to say this. Do not follow people. You've been repeatedly, politely told no. Respect it. You are not a fan. You're a stalker, and you will be treated as such. Respect the boundaries. Stop harassing, whatever." Somebody needs to tell CM Punk it wasn't Parliament that made you. It wasn't TKO that made you. It wasn't the UFC, Dana White, Vince McMahon. It was the fans that made CM Punk what he was. It's the fans that made CM Punk the best in the world. Now, I understand fans can get annoying, but what do you expect? Wrestling fans are the weirdest, dumbest, marked out, craziest people you'll ever meet. Trust me, I'm one of them, man. I promise you. I see Stone Cold Steve Austin. I see Bret Hart. I'm marking out. I'm pulling the car over. I'm hopping out. I'm going to try to get a picture, try to get an autograph, try to get a hug, something. When I see the people that I grew up on, when I see the people that I love dearly for 10, 20, 30 years. Have you become such a corporate man? Have you kissed Triple H and TKO ass that much? Where you forgot the people that actually made you? It's the diehard fans that actually got you back into wrestling when you went to AEW, put you over. It's the diehard fans that got you back to your favorite place in the world, the WWE. So you can put on the suit behind the scenes and you can sit at the meetings because we know you want a certain spot. And when you want that spot, you know, all that pipe bomb dropping, you gotta stop it. You gotta play pretty boy. Now, on a serious note, I do understand CM Punk being annoyed with fans, man. Nobody wants to be treated like they're not human. You know what I mean? He'd be on long flights. These wrestlers got jet lag. They're already dealing with a bunch of BS in their personal life, BS in their professional life. The last thing they want is a fan sending stuff to their house or being just annoying and weird. So I understand that. But I also see the flip side though, because I'm one of the marks, I'm one of the fans. Like I just told you, if I see Bret Hart or Stone Cold or anybody I grew up watching, I am literally gonna break down in tears. I'm literally gonna cry. I'm marking out. I'm not gonna mark out to the point where I'm sleeping outside Bret Hart's crib or nothing. But if I see them at the airport or something like that, man, I will be very excited. But let me know in the comments what y'all think about that though, man. You think CM Punk just has a point of just, you know what I mean, just telling fans to leave him alone? Or do you think CM Punk should probably understand that this is what he signed up for? Now, even though CM Punk is mad at annoying fans, I'm pretty sure what makes him happy is the news that he'll be World Heavyweight Champion again, man. It's pretty obvious if you ask me. Seth Rollins, unfortunately, it's been confirmed he will have to go through surgery. November 1st, they got Saturday Night's Lame Event! And they got him on a poster, and I'm pretty sure whoever he fights, whether it's Braun Breaker or whether it's Bronson Reed, no matter who it is, he's going to wind up coming out the champion. He's probably going to be the champion into the new year. Now, people be asking me, "Oh, Bobby Monsoon, what's your heat with CM Punk?" Man, I ain't got no heat with CM Punk. I love CM Punk like all of us, man. I just hate the creative direction he's been in the past few months. I'm used to the old pipe bomb CM Punk. I'm used to the straight edge. I don't do no drugs CM Punk. That's the CM Punk I like. The one that went against Vince McMahon. The one that went against authority. I think creatively, man, especially after he get the title, I think CM Punk needs to turn into corporate man Punk. He's really doing that in real life. We know behind the scenes, he's going to want to help superstars have creative direction. He's not trying to tell Parliament how much of a horrible job he's been doing at SmackDown and Raw and the PLEs. He's keeping his mouth shut throughout all the bad creative booking WWE has been doing. I think creatively, if CM Punk made a pivot, if he put the suit on, put the tie on, came out, became corporate man Punk, that would be fire. I would love CM Punk. I'll stop calling him CM Skunk. In other news, there's been speculation that John Cena might be eyeing a match with Matt Cardona for one of his final appearances, and honestly, that comes as a shock. Most people expected his last opponents to be names like Gunther, Braun Breaker, Drew McIntyre, Edge, maybe even one more match with Brock Lesnar, but Matt Cardona, nobody saw that coming. Back when he was Zack Ryder, there was a storyline between the two. Ryder once caught John Cena backstage making out with a girl he liked, left him heartbroken, and just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Kane shows up, pushes Zack Ryder off the stage while he's in a wheelchair, completely humiliates him in front of a crowd full of people and that same girl. Man, that was a rough night for Zack Ryder. Maybe, just maybe, he's looking to get his lick back after all these years. On top of that, of course, he jobbed out the Super Cena. And man, maybe he wants a little redemption. So what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. Would you want to see Matt Cardona, John Cena for one of his final matches? There's only 4 appearances left. Now it seems like Asho Speed has been in the performance center. He's been training. He's been in the ring. And he's going to make his official debut, man. We seen him at the Royal Rumble get speared by Braun Breaker, one of the craziest spears of all time. But, man, we're going to see Asho Speed in a full match, man. I showed y'all the video where he met up with Randy Orton at his movie premiere thing he had at a stadium, and they kind of let the footage leak. Then we see this picture, Asho Speed, man. You see Randy Orton in the background. Randy Orton's probably training him, man, and it's like, I'm interested to see how this goes. Asho Speed is going to be on Logan Paul's level, man. I'm telling you right now, dog. This dude is athletic. He has the grind. He has the work ethic. Does he have the passion for wrestling? We're going to find out, man. How do y'all think Asho Speed would do in the WWE ring? And who do y'all want to see him up against? Now, Dynamite started off Toni Storm, Chris Statlander, fire segment, man. Well, Renee, she's doing an interview backstage. Toni Storm is one of the best people doing promos right now. Her whole gimmick, just completely flawless, man. She straight told Chris, man, dog, I don't even know how I feel without the title, man. I'm gonna get mines back at Wrestle Dream. Statlander letting her know it ain't gonna be that easy. The Statlander you got that time won't be the same one you're getting this time, man. It's gonna be crazy at Wrestle Dream. If you ask me, I think Statlander gonna go over again. I think it's Statlander time to see what she could do as AEW Women's Champion for the past few months. Toni Storm isn't going nowhere, and we all know that. I think these women are going to have a classic match come Wrestle Dream, man. What I liked about Dynamite tonight was the segments, man. I love the segments. I love the storytelling building. Darby Allin, Jon Moxley, I quit match at Wrestle Dream. This might be one of the sickest matches in history. We might actually see Darby Allin get put on a t-shirt, RIP, after Jon Moxley gets done with him. He promises, man, he's gonna destroy Jon Moxley. They got a nice setup when they did they face-to-face, man. They needed plexiglass. They had to go in a penitentiary for this promo. Jon Moxley telling Darby Allin, he gave him the olive branch. He said, look, man, it's going to get bad at Wrestle Dream. The olive branch is here, man. Join the Death Riders. You know, Darby Allin, crazy ass, negative. He said, man, I see what you did to Bryan Danielson. That was one of your best friends, man. I know you'll do the same for me. Jon Moxley says business is business. Out of nowhere, Pac comes out, start whipping Darby Allin ass. Tried to throw him through the plexiglass, man. Pac is a different beast, man. You don't want him on you, man. Of course, the brutal beating wasn't enough for Darby Allin because he's coming back for more later on. The Death Riders tried to destroy him before Wrestle Dream even gets here. Darby made it to the ring and met Jon Moxley. Then he pulls out an AEW flag, basically telling him he's not going to quit, letting him know he'll be buried 6 feet deep before he ever quits. Moxley takes it as pure disrespect, hits him with a DDT right on the AEW flag. Man, I can't wait until this match this weekend. Darby Allin is a sick man, dog, seriously. I Quit match, Jon Moxley, Darby Allin. I'm really excited for this one, man. People was calling me, hitting me up, man. They had the Don Callis birthday dinner. Where was you at, Bobby Monsoon? Was you there? Of course I was. Oh man, I don't see you in the picture. Well, somebody had to hold the camera. Your boy Bobby Monsoon was the cameraman at the dinner time. They wasn't gonna let none of the AEW cameramen that are jabronis to do the job, so I had to do it. I had to capture a great dinner, a successful dinner. Man, I'm liking what Don Callis doing, man. Kyle Fletcher, Okada, and the family's growing, it's getting bigger, man. But in all seriousness, no, man, somebody tell me, where the hell is Andrade? Where's Andrade at, Tony Khan? Dog, certain shit is starting to piss me off. We need some type of story. We need some type of explanation. Man, is Andrade the same place where AJ Lee's at? He's supposed to be at the dinner. Where has he been? I've been calling his phone. I've been texting Andrade. I'm getting sent straight to voicemail. Somebody in the comments let me know, where the hell do you think Andrade's at? Takeshita, he wasn't in town, so he was on the TV screen. And Okada, he turns off the TV screen and he says, oops, my bad. Okada's pretty funny with it whenever he wants to be, man. Seriously. We got Brodito versus Okada and Takeshita, man. This is going to be interesting, man. Seriously. We all know that in real life, bro. Brodito, I love the tag team. I'm loving what they're doing. But Okada and Takeshita, when they're on the same page, there's no way Brodito's going over. But will they, though? They already went over on an episode of Dynamite previously. I'm interested in seeing, will Tony Khan put the AEW World Tag Team Champions? Will he give them to the Don Callis family, or will he keep them on Brodito, man? It could go either way with me. Obviously, I'm biased if the Don Callis family come away with the tag team champions, but man, Brodito, I love that tag team, man. I'm liking everything they doing. Let me know in the comments what y'all think and who's going to come out on that one. The main event was a trios match. The Ops versus LFI. Hangman Adam Page on commentary, and of course, Samoa Joe and the Ops get the win. Honestly, I think AEW dropped the ball with this one, and I don't care if the AEW police comes for me. The facts are the facts. They completely failed to get people hyped for this match. Now, yeah, the AEW World Championship match, I know the match itself will be good, but the Samoa Joe versus Hangman Adam Page feud feels like it came out of nowhere. It's rushed, no real build, no real heat. I'm paying my $50 for Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley. Brodito versus Okada and Takeshita. I'm even more excited for Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe than I'm excited for an AEW championship match. It's crazy when you think about it. This is supposed to be the top prize in AEW, man, and I want to see more effort into the booking. Why couldn't Adam Page and Samoa Joe got one of the cool segments some of the other matches had, man? Let me know in the comments what y'all think about that Wrestle Dream this weekend, man. It's going to be a good PPV, my bad. I forgot I gotta pay $50 for Wrestle Dream, man. I really don't got it, but I'm gonna pay it, man. Seriously, I'm looking forward to the I Quit match. I want to see the tag team match with Brodito and them. I want to see Hangman Samoa Joe, man. I want to see Tony Storm, Chris Stratland. There's a lot of things I want to see. So I'm going to give AEW the $50, man. Also, let me know what you think about CM Punk. He's going to be the new World Heavyweight Championship. Even a blind man could see this coming. They're probably going to do it at Saturday night's lame event. Where the hell is AJ Lee? Where the hell is Andrade? People's missing left or right. Let me know in the comments if you have any clue where these people are. Friday, you know we got Crackdown. And man, let's hope, let's pray, let's keep our fingers crossed that we're gonna get something happening on Crackdown, man. Seriously, we got a tiny bit better Crackdown the week prior, man. So you got to take baby steps, man. So hopefully, man, they could keep some type of momentum up and we have a solid show of SmackDown, man. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. It's Bobby Marsoon 215. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye!
So as of right now, Tommaso Ciampa's contract is coming up in WWE, and he plans on finishing his time up with the company without a renewal. It's unclear currently if Ciampa chose not to sign a new deal and is planning on going elsewhere, or is wanting to take some time off without a deal. The 40-year-old former NXT champion has been under contract in WWE since 2016, and his latest run on SmackDown has seemingly reignited a spark within his career. Like his recent match with Ilya Dragunov was absolutely brilliant.
Wait a minute, speaking of Gargano, his wife, Candice, hanging up Dragunov, running knee, Ciampa, gonna steal the championship here, Dragunov kicks out.
It proved that there is still hope for DIY on main roster, and specifically the singles careers of Gargano and Ciampa. Ciampa last wrestled on the pre-taped December 19th episode of SmackDown, coming up short alongside Johnny Gargano against Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov. Gargano was notably seen on TV this week in singles action without Ciampa present. He had his old theme back, and it seemed like they were low-key carving a new path for Gargano with Candice LeRae. At least I would assume while this contract situation is up in the air.
Forces Carmelo to kick at it too. First 48, nothing but net. Case closed.
Back at the end of 2021, we saw something similar with the other half of DIY, Johnny Gargano. He departed from WWE at the end of his contract and then ultimately returned to the company the next summer. So perhaps Ciampa will take some time off and then return at a later date. It's clear to most that Tommaso Ciampa hasn't been utilized to his maximum potential on Raw and SmackDown compared to his NXT legacy. That could be frustrating for a performer who's given years of his prime to this company, and perhaps he's looking for a new challenge. I mean, at 40 years old with nearly 2 decades of professional wrestling under his belt, Ciampa maybe just wants fresh matchups and fresh storytelling. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention the timeline where Tommaso heads to AEW. With how brilliant his storytelling can be, especially in the long term, his character work, his in-ring ability even at 40, going to a company where the best wrestle and deeper character work is actually encouraged and developed, where things are less formulaic and predictable. This could be the reigniting Ciampa needs to get back to who he once was in NXT, or maybe even better than that. Plus, AEW's schedule is less demanding than WWE's, and I'm sure he could have that be a part of his deal should he make the leap. Tommaso Ciampa has proven that he is a family guy guy, so I can see that being a part of why he would want to cut down his schedule. Imagine a psycho killer Ciampa in a world where he can be more brutal like he was in NXT. A world where he can tell the stories he wants to tell, craft the sagas he wants to craft. Imagine Psycho Killer Ciampa in a program with a babyface world champion Hangman Adam Page. The ultimate cowboy versus evil story in the latter half of 2026. Perhaps Ciampa tries to corrupt the Hangman to go back to where he once was against the likes of Swerve Strickland. You also have the likes of Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Swerve, Moxley, Okada, and more that he could tangle with. And if Gargano were to make the leap too, you could run matches like the Young Bucks, Jurassic Express, or even FTR again. And boy, don't even get me started on the prospect of the ever underrated Candice LeRae going to AEW. Oh my. LeRae versus Athena versus Hayter versus Statlander versus Shida versus Monet versus Willow versus Windsor. Gargano and Ciampa being allowed to actually ball out in the C2 at the end of this year. Oh my. Let me relax. Let me not get ahead of myself. Plus, I've barely even mentioned, but Ciampa would absolutely excel in NJPW for a brief spell if he so wanted. Some wrestlers thrive on change, especially after such a 10-year tenure in one place. And it's no secret Ciampa has battled injuries before, particularly the neck issue. The WWE grind, travel, TV tapings, live shows, is notoriously demanding. Walking away for his health or a lighter schedule is simply realistic at his age. Or even, as I said, maybe he just wants some time off from professional wrestling. Maybe to be with family, pursue other interests, or take control of his wrestling destiny outside of the confines of a WWE contract. Some have even floated the idea of Ciampa retiring permanently. He's only 40 years old, which in current day WWE terms means he was actually due for a main event push. But equally, Ciampa has had no shortage of injuries. Since he rose to fame, injuries have been a constant shadow over his career. His initial heel turn in Chicago in NXT on Gargano was followed by a long injury absence. This turn was personal, and it was followed by arguably the greatest long-term rivalry in NXT history.
What? Oh my God! What are you?
But Tommaso had to go recover from a ruptured ACL, which kept him out for the better part of a year. His return saw him come back transformed into this jacked monster with vitriol towards Gargano. And to me, this is the version of Ciampa that I wish we saw more of on WWE's main roster.
What the hell? Oh my God!
It doesn't even do it justice to say it's a shame Ciampa never became one of main roster's most vitriolic heels. In NXT, he was one of the most brilliant heels of his time. Ciampa had already recovered from an earlier ACL injury and had managed to return to have a fantastic 2018, and then he injured his neck. His neck surgery in 2019 forced him to relinquish the NXT Championship just before he was set to defend it against Gargano at TakeOver New York. Not to mention, Ciampa and Gargano had briefly just made their main roster debuts against the Revival, but his injury put the kibosh on any further action. As Ciampa went away again, Gargano delivered one of the greatest underdog matches in NXT history against Adam Cole.
Cole's in trouble! He's got a tap!
Tommaso Ciampa was almost dead on arrival on main roster, and again, it's such a shame. I really can't blame the guy for wanting to leave at the end of this deal, because it took WWE years to pull a finger out and realize what they had. He'd partially been introduced pre-Mania 38 in a random tag match with two of his rivals, Braun Breaker and Dolph Ziggler. We'd also had the prior 2019 intro before he got injured, and there was that time when he made his debut on SmackDown during the 2019 Survivor Series build. Then during 2022 post Stand and Deliver and no longer NXT champion, with much of his initial aura gone through NXT 2.0's transition, Ciampa would officially join Monday Night Raw in a backstage segment.
Please welcome the newest member to Monday Night Raw, Tommaso Ciampa.
I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to come here and welcome you to Monday Night Raw.
As I've said previously, he was basically instantly overshadowed by the Ezekiel and Kevin Owens storyline.
Thanks, Ezekiel. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, don't get fooled. That's a lie. That's Elias.
He seemed like just another guy on the roster. There was no personality behind this. Nothing to really establish who he was, and it instantly made him feel less special than he did in NXT. Ciampa would then find himself in the United States title picture with The Miz by his side. For some reason, the guy that had been so fearlessly independent and for himself now needed The Miz to cheerlead for him. And again, I love The Miz, but most of the time when they've done this kind of pairing with him, it kills all the momentum that the star had even more than the booking already did. Someone like Tommaso Ciampa didn't need The Miz spurring him on like he was some kind of game show NXT rookie. Then due to the crossover connections between The Miz and Ciampa and Miz's Dexter Lumis feud, which led The Miz to a feud with Johnny Gargano, it seemed like DIY would cross paths again, but Ciampa got injured again. He'd miss the rest of 2022 and wouldn't return until mid-2023.
When Ciampa was down for, 9 months? The last time we saw him, he was running mates with Miz.
His booking has been so stop and start on Raw and SmackDown, so it's hard not to reminisce about those black and gold days. One minute they're introducing him backstage as just another guy or the Miz's protege, they changed his theme song and packaging, and then the next minute he has his theme song back and entrance only to become a background member of the tag division. Then they start treating DIY seriously again, only to once again have them fade into obsolescence.
Was meet in the middle. Cover by Ciampa. We've got new tag team champions.
I am a huge fan of DIY, including Candice LeRae, and I've said for a long time that these people have not been treated like people of their talent deserve. Some of you will say, there's not always enough time to go around for everybody, but it's a team effort. We all make WWE what it is. Some will even tell you some black and gold guys only worked in black and gold, or even they were only over down there to the indie underground fans. I'd say that's a load of bullshit personally, because in the small moments where, especially lately, Ciampa and Gargano have been allowed to shine, they're proving that talent supersedes the color brand it's wrestling upon.
Oh no! The Blackheart showing you. Whoa, God! A suplex on the apron. Oh no! Oh goodness!
Ciampa can be a brilliant heel again. Gargano can be a brilliant babyface or heel too. You just have to give them the time they deserve. Like, when DIY finally reunited on Monday Night Raw, it should have been far more monumental than it was.
Gargano taking the fight to Imperium. Super kick. DIY back tonight on Monday Night Raw.
Ciampa was saved from Imperium and it was fantastic, so the crowd was into it.
Made it in the middle.
But WWE's main roster for a long time has had a very special way in many examples of making people who came from NXT lose all of the interesting parts of their character to be stripped down and ultimately lack depth. And that's exactly what happened. They were put back together and placed in tag matches without stakes, rarely given mic time, and were often overshadowed by louder personalities. No longer were they two incredibly deep characters, but eventually they were just another tag team. WWE didn't trust what made them special, nor were they given great material or time to continue to be so. In a world where there is so much opportunity in pro wrestling, maybe these three would fare better leaving WWE for a spell or for the rest of their careers, whether that's AEW or New Japan Pro Wrestling or somewhere else. But dealing with Ciampa specifically, he is far too talented to be wasting away. I think I can safely say that. Ciampa gave 10 years of his career to WWE, and it may just be time to explore his other options if WWE was never going to have time to get serious with someone like Tommaso Ciampa. Because whether it be Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano, or Tommaso Ciampa, you can't have people that are that good on their own as well as being in a faction, but on their own specifically, be faction people forever. You just can't. And I feel like almost Tommaso Ciampa's probably in that headspace where he's like, well, the next couple years here are kind of obvious. We kind of see who's going to be at the top of the card. If I'm not going to be there, then maybe the grass is greener elsewhere. This doesn't have to be a disrespect disrespect fuck WWE kind of angle either. I'm sure Ciampa is a lot more mature and respectful than that, but I just think there is more opportunity for him elsewhere, or if he decides that he wants to retire and hang it up and focus on his health, because like I said, he's had a hell of a career. There's been a lot of injuries in there, a lot of scary moments. I will respect the hell out of it either way, because Ciampa is truly one of my favorites to ever do it. Like, he, in his prime, absolutely fantastic. Well, let me know what you think Ciampa will do next. Be sure to subscribe and tell a friend about this channel, and shout out to Hiroshi Tanahashi.
So last night I went through my girl's phone and guess what? I found out she's been cheating on me. She told me every Friday night her and her friends go out on dates, they have fun, they live it up. But me, I never got time because I'm too busy watching Crackdown, and you gotta be down with smoking crack to keep on watching this show, part of that. You ruined my relationships. You drained my bank accounts. We all heard of things of costing an arm and a leg, but what WWE is doing, things are costing an arm, a leg, an artery, a decapitation of your head. You gotta damn near sell your soul to be a part of the WWE universe. Well, somebody call Elon Musk up so he could loan me a rocket to get me out of this hellhole we're calling the WWE Universe. Remember the names of WWE biggest events were larger than life. You had King of the Ring, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and now ESPN and their $30 a month crap. We're not calling it an app, we're calling it a crap, because that's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what they're doing to the fans. Way before then, now we got a name. The first show called WrestlePalooza. I didn't even cover this my last video because I honestly thought it was a joke. I honestly thought there is no way the creative people on WWE has reached this level of stupidity. But on the other hand, maybe WrestlePalooza is a fitting name because you have to be a loser to keep supporting WWE and TKO after the constant disrespect.
WrestlePalooza ticket prices are absolutely insane. So this is row 3 on the ramp, seat 3. So it's not seat 1 or 2 where you can hang over the ramp and get amazing footage and all that stuff. And this is early access too. This is a pre-sale. This hasn't even gone live yet. They won $6,000 for this seat right here. I mean, what are we doing here right now? This is insane. And I get it. ESPN, first show, Brock Lesnar, John Cena. But if this is the pricing they're going to end up doing for John Cena, I mean, John Cena's last show is going to be $10,000 for these seats, $20,000 for these seats.
These prices are ridiculous. $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and you can't even get good seats. Man, people calling me saying, Bobby Monsoon, chill out. At least we're getting Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. It's worth it to who? Man, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I better hear Michael Jackson singing the national anthem. $4,000, $6,000. I want to see a mixed tag match. Adam and Eve versus Mary and Moses. $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I better see David and Goliath rematched. What type of crap are they trying to pull? And if that wasn't enough, we got some more good news for you. If you're looking forward to going to WrestleMania 42 and you're one of these rich people who gets the on-location packages, the top one is going for a whopping $70,000. Hey, green shirt guy, are you happy now? The money you contributed to WWE literally could have stopped homelessness in the United States of America. But But instead of you actually doing it for a good cause, you're giving it so Paula Vick can have an extra few vacations for the summer. Great. Great. Thank you for your contribution. Somebody give him a Nobel Peace Prize. Oh my God, I'm so confused because the math isn't mathing. How is WWE content going down, but the ticket prices are going up? How are the storylines are going down, but the subscriptions are going up? Does WWE really think charging more and more money to the fans is gonna help TKO get out of $3 billion of another subscription? Does WWE really think charging more and more money to the fans is gonna help TKO get out of $3 billion of, oh no, another one? Another one? It ain't gonna help him get out of the $3 billion of debt! This ad is brought to you by Paula Vick. Shout out to everybody who hit me up, tapped in, got their early Paula Vick t-shirts. But now we got the website, BobbyMonsoon.com. You can hit the website up, get your t-shirt, but act fast. It's a limited stock only. BobbyMonsoon.com. I salute the fans for the support. Thank you. Now, SmackDown started off with Becky Lynch. They're in Dublin, Ireland. The crowd is going crazy for her. The first 10 minutes of SmackDown was cool, if you ask me. Becky Lynch, she comes out as a baby face. They're cheering, putting her over. She switches like that, gets heat from the crowd within a snap of a finger. She says, man, y'all don't deserve to be on TV. Dublin, Ireland, y'all don't deserve WWE. The crowd start booing. This was great work by Becky Lynch to start the show off. First, you got Tiffany Stratton coming out, cutting Becky Lynch off. Then Nia Jax come out. Nia and Becky, they start jumping Tiffany Stratton. Guess who comes to help? Her arch nemesis, Jade Cargill. These two women are supposed to be beefing, but they keep helping each other for absolutely no reason. Jade Cargill comes out, and now we got a tag match. Of course, Nick Aldis comes out and makes a tag match as a main event. It's the same copy and paste storyline every single week.
We got ourselves a banger main event!
Hey, Paula Vick! We need to get Wade Barrett drug tested immediately. What are you talking about, banger main event? Shout out Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Becky Lynch, Jade Cargill. But banger main event is borderline blasphemous. After that, you got Melodome Miz versus the Motor City Super Soakers. Yo, bro, I know all you indie people that love the Motor City Super Soakers, but I'm sorry. What storyline are these dudes a part of that's ever been compelling outside of them winning the tag team championships early on their second or first week when they wasn't supposed to win it? What other storyline they've been a part of that we should give the slightest shit about? The Motor City Super Soakers are great in-ring talent, but these dudes are equivalent to a hoagie with no cheese, no lunch meat, no pickles, sweet tots, salt, pepper, mayonnaise. Just a fucking bun. Wrestling in the squared circle. It's almost fall. It's about to start getting cold outside. Put the Super Soakers on the shelf. Now, on the Melodome Miz, I'm not gonna lie, Miz, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Carmelo Hayes, I'm liking he's getting paired up with Miz instead of jobbing to LA Knight and Andrade every week, or whatever storylines Paula Vick had for him. This is a good spot for Carmelo Hayes linking up with Miz, and they got the storyline going where Miz is stealing all the praise after 2 matches. Now next week they got a tag match, #1 contenders, Street Profits versus Melo Don't Miz. We all know Street Profits are about to lose. We all know WWE Creative screwed the Street Profits over when they had the titles. They wasn't allowed to defend the titles on not one PLE. But then you got the Wyatt shit who don't even decide to show up the SmackDown, Crackdown, to even show the titles or do anything. They're sitting in someone's basement putting a little recorder filter on, recording stupid ass videos, not defending the titles, but they get to defend it as SummerScam? Give me a break, dog. We know you're about to make the Street Profits job the Melo Don't Miz. Why are we even having this match? Next, you got Piper Niven surprisingly going over Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, shout out to Charlotte Flair. She looked nice tonight. She was dressed like it was a WrestleMania or something like that, man. So I appreciate all the wrestlers that just go the extra mile with their gear, switching it up, being creative, you know what I mean? But I was surprised that Piper Niven went over on Charlotte Flair. We know that Charlotte Flair is like booked like damn near like Hogan. Piper Niven is booked like the Brooklyn Brawler or somebody. She's always jobbing to somebody. But Piper Niven is one of the best women talents on that SmackDown rosters. Now, this is the one thing that annoyed me, though. Chelsea Green! Chelsea Green is probably the best star you got on your roster. Is she best in ring? No. Is she best on the promos? No. But when you talk about the overall package, she just has it. She has it. It comes together so well. It puts her at the top of the line as far as female stars on SmackDown. Now, you can probably make an argument for Tiffany Stratton, of course, Bianca Belair, but she's injured right now. But man, I love everything Chelsea Green's doing. It's just so frustrating that WWE Creative, man, she had the U.S. title. She started this whole secret Hervis and all, and we can't get nothing compelling with her but her being a stooge, a background dancer to the secret Hervis. It was supposed to be Chelsea Green and the secret Hervis. The past few weeks, I feel like it's been the secret Hervis and Chelsea Green as a side dish. Imagine going to a restaurant and they're giving you steak as the appetizer, and when the entree come out, you get greens and sweet potatoes. It makes no sense. The backwards booking, the dyslexic booking needs to stop. Next, you got Logan Paul and John Cena cutting a promo on each other about absolutely nothing. This was the epitome of mid, dog. Seriously. It's cool to hear John Cena on the mic. He's just so flawless. He's trying his best. Logan Paul is trying his best too, but my God. The storyline is so mid. Logan Paul, you're supposed to be some big social media superstar. Where's the promos getting cut on John Cena? We need more. He did a little bit on his podcast with Ariel Helwani. I'm gonna show y'all this. But we need more of that. Take your phone out, go on Instagram Live, do something. Now, since the clock is winding down with John Cena and he already got Cody Rhodes out the way, he got Randy Orton out the way, he got a few people out the way on his return. Now, who's left? You know he's doing Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. That's the rumor. He's going to be doing probably Drew McIntyre. I will hope John Cena will give Drew McIntyre one final push. But is he going to fight Gunther last? Is he going to fight Jacob Fatu last? He did R-Truth. Like, John Cena last year should have been focused on putting new talent over. All of the champions within recent memory are over the age of 40 or pushing 40. We have to put some of these young guns in the spotlight to prove what they're gonna do. We're not gonna get John Cena versus Braun Breaker. Are you serious? Like, come on, bro. Like, John Cena retirement tour was wasted. And if you ask me, I wouldn't get mad if John Cena decided to run it back one more year. Let's get a full year, babyface Cena. No Travis Scott. No Rock. None of the heel crap. Let's get a year of John Cena putting new talent over. Next, you got the Street Profits versus the bum line with Solo Sonoa, Bachelor, Jeff Cobb, Hakuna Matata versus the Street Profits and whoever wins advancing. If you listen to the earlier in the video, of course the Street Profits won this match. But this match was just a regular match. And it was cool, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing too exciting. It wasn't nothing too boring. It was cool. I love seeing Montez Ford work. I love seeing Dawkins work. Y'all know Street Profits, my favorite tag team. During the match, you had an appearance from Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and it's just like, oh my God, the same stuff coming with a black hoodie. How many black hoodies does Jimmy Uso have, bro? Next, you got Drew McIntyre cutting a promo he cut last week, then a week before that, then a week before that, then a week before that. The same exact promo from Drew McIntyre every single week. The only difference was you got Randy Orton coming out with his tongue all out before he RKO's him. And yay, we get to sing the Randy Orton song. I have voices in my head and I'm watching SmackDown and I wish I was dead. Come talk to me. My God, bro, this is horrible. Now, shout out to everybody in the main event. I love all the women work. I'm just not feeling this storyline. Where's the creativity? What is going on in Gorilla besides the creative team having a sleepover while we suffer watching 2 hours of Crackdown? Now, the last few seconds of Crackdown was a bit interesting. You got John Cena, Nick Aldis. He tells him, man, I heard from Brock Lesnar, they're out of nowhere. Logan Paul, he knocks out John Cena. We never got to hear what was the message from Brock Lesnar, but I gotta call a spade a spade. That is what I'm talking about that's kind of missing in SmackDown. Like, if we had a little bit more of that, just cliff notes or storylines that's needing the other storylines that we actually care about, that's actually compelling, the show will be so much better. But now it's like everything is horrible to the point it's like cringe. Only because the fans and the comments and stuff, I could bust it up with y'all. This is the only reason I am watching this. Because trust me, if I wasn't on YouTube, I would not be spending $1 of anything in my bank account watching this. If I wasn't on YouTube, I wouldn't have to worry about my girlfriend disappearing with some guy named Tyrone and leaving me in the bed all lonely. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. Let me know what you think about WrestlePalooza. Cause you gotta be a loser to watch that crap, man. Also, let me know what y'all think about $70,000 for a WrestleMania 42 on location package. Let me know what you think about Crackdown also. This was another horrible episode of Crackdown, man. It's just like, what are we gonna do? How do you put out such a horrible, such a mid-level product, then turn around and expecting the people to drain their bank accounts? And the most confusing thing of it is people out there that's actually draining their bank accounts. They're called bots. C-Jax coined the term, so shout out to C-Jax, but I'm co-signing it. These are human bots that are going out, buying these tickets, buying these merchandise, 70,000, 100,000. My God, let me know in the comments what y'all think about this crap, man, and I'm gonna go try to see if I could, I don't know, man, find my girlfriend since I gotta, after I edit this video. So let me know in the comments what y'all think about that, man. This is Bobby Monsoon 215. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye!
Ladies and gentlemen, New Wrestling World Order, Dietrich Davis here. Ladies and gentlemen of this Sunday service, on this Sunday, on this presentation, on this broadcast, on this message, I ask for 3 people to come to the front of the congregation. One has been here before. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking these 3 men, these 3 intelligent, foolish, and willfully obtuse men to come to the front of the congregation. See, these 3 have been playing the game very well, ladies and gentlemen. See, we're in the era of this ruthless depression. But more than that, they are no longer playing for us. If you're in the IWC, your World Heavyweight Champion is talking. Your Universalist Champion is talking. The God voice of the IWC. The voice of the casual fan. The voice of the IWC. For everyone who has ever watched wrestling, it is no longer designed for you. There's a new game in town. There's only one person that they'll play for. I'll get to that in a second. They're not playing to you and your couple of dollars and your few cents. No, not at all, ladies and gentlemen. Not those people over at the WWE. It's a different game. See, last year around WrestleMania time, when John Cena went through his complete change, when The Rock didn't show back up. See, there was no intention for The Rock to show back up. There was no intention for Triple H to plan something with The Rock ahead of time. And the magical name that no one talks about, Lee Fitting, executive producer. Those 2 names you see at the end of the show, Lee Fitting and Triple H. Remember those 2 men. They're not playing the game you want, nor they never will. Ladies and gentlemen, in the standing room area of this congregation, it's crowded, wall to wall. We are beyond capacity. I want you to step aside and allow down this middle aisle in the church of the New Wrestling World Order. Never forget, it's $5 at the door and a 2-drink minimum when you come into the church of the New Wrestling World Order. Part your ways. Don't spill your yak. Don't spill your vodka. Don't spill your martinis. Part your ways, ladies and gentlemen. Move out the way for these 3 pieces of slime that come to the front of the congregation. I call executive producer Lee Fitting down to the front of the congregation. You know, former Mr. ESPN, ladies and gentlemen. I call Paul Levesque, also known as Triple H, also known as Hunter Hearst Hensley, publicly known as the Cerebral Assassin, publicly known as Chief Content Officer of World Wrestling Entertainment. You come on down to the front of the congregation. And lastly and not least, I call, allegedly, the most electrifying man in the business of professional wrestling, Mr. Goosebumps. Mr. Goosebumps himself, little heart disease man himself. I call to the front of this congregation, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, as duly noted in 1998, never the people's champion. He truly is only the corporate champion. Come on down to the front of my congregation, Dwayne. See, all 3 of you or play the game. And you know, once I make this call, business begins on these three individuals. Kneel before the new wrestling world order. Kneel before my congregation. Kneel before your true world's champion of the IWC and beyond. Me, Dietrich Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, look at these three men on their knees, at my kneecaps, a position that they are used to. Emotionally, psychologically, sometimes physically, but at all times, these three men are willing to be at the kneecaps of the man and the idol they want in front of them. I was recalling some footage of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's father, Rocky Johnson. And he made it very clear that The Rock really didn't care about wrestling. He wanted Hollywood. And most people use professional wrestling to get right to Hollywood. It's a common element. Currently, most of the roster wants to be in Hollywood. No if, no ands, or buts. Cody Rhodes, your current WWE champion, he never wanted to be in the WWE. He went to school for acting and failed. Brought himself back. The Rock only gave wrestling a try because he blew his knee out. The Usos only gave wrestling a try because the NFL never called. Roman Reigns only gave wrestling a try because he caught a little bit of cancer and couldn't play football no more. Are you seeing the pattern? Are you seeing the pattern? A lot of these second generation stars and some of the first gens, they just don't get it. Becky Lynch, failed stunt woman in Hollywood, barely can get a stunt job on Star Trek, but yet she found her way to the WWE. Friend of the show or not, Jay Cargill truly wants Hollywood. See, a lot of these guys want that cinematic screen. They want to answer to the most dangerous demon of them all, vanity. Well, we've spoken about that beautiful queen before. Vanity. It makes women get breast implants and BBLs. It makes men get in shape, go to the barbershop and get haircuts. It makes people jump all over the place just to get acknowledged of a party of one and continued. Vanity, ladies and gentlemen. But when you enter the Hollywood matrix, once you enter the other side of that idiot box, once you've gotten to the pinnacle game, you no longer play for the admiration of the fans. You no longer dance for just to hear the cheers of the people. You no longer give that great American speech to hear them applaud you and celebrate you. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about one thing, and one thing only. Awards. Trophies. As Moses once went up and walked to the top of the mountain, while everybody partied down at the bottom, he brought down trophies with words on them. Commandments. Every genre has their commandments. And the people partied around the golden calf. And the golden calf that is desired, the golden calf that everybody wants, is not the WWE Championship. It's not the World Championship. It's not the AEW Championship. It's not the IWGP World's Heavyweight Championship. No. It's none of those things, ladies and gentlemen. They want an Oscar. They want an Emmy. They want Golden Globes. They want all of those television trophies. They want Grammys. The only true championships in all of entertainment, especially in a business that's sports and entertainment. I want you guys to hear me out. Why would The Rock need to be a part of the WWE product where he already owns a large portion of the WWE product? Not much, but 1%, which is more than what any of us would own. And then it gets me to thinking, he's a shareholder. What would be very important for a shareholder to have? Award-winning content. Hell, you go watch the Oscars. What are they doing up there, ladies and gentlemen? Giving out awards for content. Game awards. Awards for content. Tony Awards. Awards for stage presentation. Emmy Awards. Awards for daytime television. And that's exactly where the WWE stands. When you watch those end credits, the reason why when you get to Monday Night Raw or you get to SmackDown, and when Vince was around, there was no production credits, no producer credits. Vince wasn't chasing awards because he was playing with his own money. Vince wasn't chasing little tin statues because he was playing with his own money. Vince wasn't chasing the Hollywood Matrix because he became the Matrix. But now Rock, a vanity-driven individual, Lee Fitting, a vanity-driven individual, and Paul Levesque, the greatest shill and shuck and jiver of all of professional wrestling. When Lee Fitting's name and Triple H's, not Triple H, you don't see the name Triple H. When Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting name hits that screen, that's letting the world and the world know, and the gods of television, we want awards. It's like King James putting his name on hundreds of books of the Bible with millions of words. He put his name on it. King James. Vince McMahon never had to put his name on the WWE product. You knew when you saw WWE, you knew who the god of that company was. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, follow with me very clearly as I talk to you. Follow with me very clearly as I break down this very unique situation. But like King James, Triple H, and Lee Fitting put their name on the word of God, devaluing it, removing the enjoyment of it, the joy of it, the pleasures of it, what we love from it, even though it's recklessly dangerous and out of control. He put his name above the words and the world that Vince McMahon built. Think about that. Now, let me tell you where it leads to for the reason why The Rock is called in front of us. The Rock is now nominated for a Golden Globe for The Smashing Machine, a movie that is 2 hours and 10 minutes of the worst acting, horrible performance, bad lighting, bad camera work. The only person who enjoyed that movie was The Rock and Dana White. A forced 3-minute standing ovation from the people at an independent film festival. Not because the movie is good, because it brought the film festival attention. The Rock, who doesn't have one good acting bone in his goddamn body, or not one good one trained as of yet, stood in front of us and presented the Smashing Machine and produced literally, financially, and provable, the worst film of this century, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the second quarter of the century, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the second quarter of the century. And The Rock, who should have been a millennial man, still has not proven himself on these Hollywood streets. So he's paying for a position. The Rock being nominated for a Golden Globe is not just a vanity call for The Rock. It's a vanity call for Dwayne Johnson, shareholder over at WWE. See, Vince raised competition. They're no longer, Triple H and The Rock is no longer competing for our attention, ladies and gentlemen. They don't care if you buy wrestling tickets. It's about advertisers. And guess who pays attention to the advertisers and the impressions of the business? The Oscars, the Emmys, the Tonys, the Daytime Awards, everything that you can't believe and you wouldn't even breathe of, think of, dream of. This is what they're fighting for. That is the new WWE Championship. That is the new world title, ladies and gentlemen. A Oscar, a Tony Award, a Daytime Emmy. That's what they're vying for now. Lee Fitting won for Outstanding Live Series for Monday Night Football. What do you think WWE programming is? An Outstanding Live Series. He won Outstanding Short Features. Why do you think we're getting more and more trailers in WWE with bigger licensed music artists? Outstanding Studio Show Weekly. The WWE is a live studio event. The studios are the arenas. Outstanding Studio Show. For Sports Center, he won. They need those awards now. Those are the true trophies of entertainment. And like most people, you gotta get on your goddamn knees and begin to start sucking on some kneecaps. This is what they're fighting for, ladies and gentlemen. You hear the sirens in the background? That's to get Band-Aids for all of their knees so that they can sit there and keep on sucking off the Oscars, the Emmys, the Tony Awards. They want all of the trophies. The Rock's nomination is not about him winning, ladies and gentlemen. Dwayne Johnson's nomination is all about positioning WWE. The Rock don't give a damn about no Travis Scott. He don't give a damn. He told us in an interview, live, he said, The Rock's story ends here. The final boss ends here because Dwayne Johnson has to go win a Tony Award. Not Tony Awards, Oscars, Daytime Emmys, and Golden Globes. This nomination is the beginning. For the first time in history, ladies and gentlemen, sooner or later, WWE will be nominated for Outstanding Television Series. And though Lee Fitting robbed and paid for awards, he can no longer win a Daytime Emmy. But guess who can? Triple H. And Lee Fitting gets the job as executive producer, moving out Kevin Dunn and bringing in Lee Fitting because Lee Fitting knows how to play the Daytime Emmy Award game. That's what they want. The show is not designed to get wrestlers over. The show is now to win awards, because sooner or later, wrestlers will be nominated for leading actor, leading actress. What did Bret Hart say in Wrestling in Shadows? No one ever came up to me and said I was a good actor, telling us that wrestling was fake then. There is no kayfabe. Kayfabe just means keep everybody out the business. It's never been about protecting industry. Now, what happens when they can start nominating wrestlers for Daytime Emmy Awards? Best actress, best this, best stunt work, best drama, best storyline. When Triple H wanted Vince McMahon to push the Bloodline storyline to win a Daytime Emmy, and Vince turned it down. Triple H world was broken. They're not making content for us. They're making content for award shows, ladies and gentlemen. They are making content for award shows. They are making content for award shows, but they got to prove their dollar. Of course, they want to make their billions, raise the ticket prices. You know what I saw last year at WrestleMania? See, this is what now officially 25 years in the business of entertainment. 3 rows back, I saw a clip as they were panning to the crowd. Head of the Emmy Awards was sitting there. You know how WWE gets advertisers? They bring people in and they sit them down. And they now let them sit in these high-priced seats so they can feel the energy and electricity. That's how you bring people to advertising products. And they want to get it on there. What happens around next year Royal Rumble time when it says presented, WWE, presented by the Oscars, presented by the Tonys, SummerSlam, presented by the Grammys? How much music do you hear that's Grammy nominated? A lot. Look at the play that I'm putting in front of you. Look what these 3 fucks, these 3 pieces of shit are doing to your dreams, your goals, your admiration, to your love, your lifetime investment of professional wrestling. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw that person sitting 3 rows back at WrestleMania, and I said, what the fuck is the head of the Emmy Award Committee doing there? They're grooming them for the product. They're grooming the people who create the nominations for the product. They're grooming them, ladies and gentlemen. Triple H don't give no goddamn about no 17 times world champion. He don't give a damn about no fucking black talent. He don't even give a damn about no white talent. How can he make the product look international so that he can win a daytime Emmy? When do you realize the play at hand? All of you dirt sheet readers and smart marks and everybody, these individuals all over these YouTube streets thinking they have the answer, armchair booking storylines, giving a fuck. Triple H is doing that. Triple H is doing this. The Rock should have showed up. You're all looking for someone to blame. Let me tell you, there's no one to blame. The fucking game has changed. It's about awards and trophies now. This is why Triple H is on every podcast. This is why The Rock is running around pushing to win this pushing to win this Golden Globe Award. It's not about you. That's why this is the Ruthless Depression era. They're not selling content for us. They're selling it to put a man-made sized dildo in their hand. A little gold trophy. A little man holding a globe with the world in their hand, a daytime Emmy. This is all they care about now. And The Rock being nominated for that Golden Globe, which tells me 20% of the Smashing Machine budget went to taking people to dinner, people getting extensions put on their homes, and went to paying for overpriced vacations and jewelry and trips, ladies and gentlemen. It went to that. They don't give a fuck about the Smashing Machine being successful. It was all about The Rock putting himself in the award show game, which would then lead for WWE to be lobbied in the award show game. How do you think WWE got over to Netflix? It was a deal that The Rock had that he didn't give a fuck about. So he traded it to bring WWE over to Netflix. Smart fucking move. Because Netflix is making millions off of WWE. A lot of people want to say, oh, Netflix won out the WWE deal. Great speculation by a bunch of YouTubers making shit up. They don't want out the WWE. They want more WWE. Monday Night Raw wins an award, and guess who else gets an award? Netflix. Guess who else has entered the Oscar, has entered the Daytime Emmy Award game? Who has entered the Golden Globe game in the last 5 years? You guessed it, Netflix. The game is different now, ladies and gentlemen. They don't play to an audience of millions and millions and millions of fans around the world. They play to now an audience of 3. Oscar, Grammy, and Emmy. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing more, nothing less. If you do not believe me, pay attention. I ask every person within the sound of my voice, watch the Golden Globes this month. Watch it. Watch the Golden Globes and watch how long they keep that camera on The Rock. And within 1 year or 2 years, watch how WWE then gets nominated for a daytime Emmy, and they will lose. But Lee Fitting, who hustled the daytime Emmys, Lee Fitting, who won at least 30-something awards and then had them stricken from him because he was winning awards and putting people names on them. He played the Emmy game. Lee Fitting is in that company for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Heyman brought up at a slight moment that it's important that we should be a part of the Emmys. Pay attention to the play. Nothing is done by mistake in WWE. You just choose not to acknowledge it, or they make sure that you can't see that play. They make sure you can't see that play. And Lee Fitting can't win those awards no more. But guess who can? Paul Levesque in WWE. Now what happens when they're no longer chasing cauliflower awards? Who gives a damn about a Slammy, ladies and gentlemen? Who gives a damn about a WWE Hall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen? They don't give a goddamn. They're chasing golden calves. Oscar, Emmy, and Golden Globes. And don't let them start winning awards for theme music, because a lot of you out there love replaying WWE themes in your cars and at home, or for YouTube, buying it on Spotify and iTunes, streaming it on Spotify and iTunes. They're going to come for that one too. Now, get these bitch ass niggas out of my congregation. Take heed to my words, ladies and gentlemen. The game has completely changed over at WWE. They no longer make content for you. They make content for Oscar, Emmy, and Grammy. And let's not forget the unique one, Golden Globe.
I love a good mystery, so Years ago, when I heard rumours that there was a city cut from Oblivion before it was released, I got hooked on finding out more about it. I've touched upon Oblivion's missing city in the Urban Legends of Oblivion video, but I wanted to go into it in more detail, so here we are. In the release version of Oblivion, players can visit 9 major cities across Cyrodiil, but there was meant to be a 10th city, a place called Such, which is conspicuously absent from the game world. References to Such appear in Elder Scrolls lore and even in Oblivion's pre-release media. Yet by the time Oblivion launched, Such had vanished, leaving only a lonely fort on the Gold Coast as a trace of its existence. What happened to the city of Such? Was it lost to some cataclysm in Tamriel's history or simply cut from the game during development? In this video, we're going to take a look at the mystery of Such from both in-universe and real-world perspectives, piecing together lore origins, historical mentions, in-game remnants and developer commentary to understand this lost city. Along the way, we'll explore how fans and modders have tried to restore Such, and how new official lore in Elder Scrolls Online has given new life to Oblivion's missing city. Before we dive in though, I want to remind you all that the algorithm is a fickle beast and engagement is everything, so you can help me by liking, hyping, commenting, all that good stuff. And if you want more of this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This year I'm aiming to try and reach at least 50k subs, so every single person who clicks counts towards that goal. And of course, check out the rest of my videos too once you sub. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to my channel members and Patreon supporters who are generously contributing to me being able to do this full time. Anyway, with that being said, let's crack on. Long before Oblivion, Such was not an unknown name. It appears multiple times in Elder Scrolls lore as a real settlement. Such was a major Colovian city in northwestern Cyrodiil from the First Era through to the end of the Third Era. It occupied the Gold Coast region near the border with Hammerfell, north of Anvil and not far from where Kvatch's county ends. In its prime, Such was a notable cultural and trade hub famed for its artists, artisans and performers, attracting visitors interested in artistic and philosophical pursuits. The city's influence extended over a region known as County Such, which reached north to the Brenna River, the river marking Cyrodiil's border with Hammerfell. Today, that same area is considered a part of County Kvatch, suggesting that at some point Such's territory was absorbed by Kvatch. The name Such surfaces in several in-game books and maps that establish its historical existence and significance. A map of Western Tamriel, reportedly compiled from maps and art in the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard and other sources, clearly labels Such on Cyrodiil's western edge, roughly where it would later have been in Oblivion. Even Arena, the first Elder Scrolls game, may hint at Such. While Such was not a visitable city in Arena, one unused quest marker in Arena's data is located south of the Brenna River near Hammerfell's border, exactly where Such would be. This suggests the location was at least on Bethesda's radar from the earliest days, though it never featured as a playable city then either. Then there's the Second Era Chronicle of Jorun, the future High King of Skyrim, which notes that as a youth, Jorun travelled across Tamriel and stayed in many cities, including Such in Cyrodiil. The mention is brief but telling. Such was significant enough in the Second Era to host a Nord prince seeking cultural experiences. This context emphasises Such's artistic reputation, implying it was a flourishing city at that time. Then there's the Field Guide to River Trolls. This scholarly work by Phrastus of Elenir, an imperial lorekeeper in Elder Scrolls Online, provides a vivid anecdote linking Such to the local environment. Phrastus writes of visiting the marketplace of Such and seeing the carcass of a river troll on display. A hunter had slain the troll near the Brenna River, which corroborates Such's location as a riverside trade town on the Cyrodiil-Hammerfell border. The casually mentioned marketplace of Such indicates the city was active around the time of the Plane Meld, a big part of Elder Scrolls Online's storyline circa the Second Era 582, which, as we'll see later, was confirmed by content added to Elder Scrolls Online, but I won't spoil that part just yet. Then there's Thief of Virtue. This book, which appears in Oblivion, Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online, presents a salacious tale involving a wealthy baron of such named Ignace and his Baroness Veronique. A master thief sneaks into Castle Such to steal coins but ends up hiding and inadvertently philandering with the Baroness. Aside from the colourful story, the book provides 2 lore details. It describes the Baron's castle and Such as having tall and unscalable walls, and it claims that Such is a city in Hammerfell, not Cyrodiil. This geographic inconsistency has puzzled lore fans. It could be a simple error by the in-game author or developers, but it has led to theories discussed later that perhaps Such at one time fell under Hammerfell's control, or that there might have been another Such in Hammerfell. Most evidence, however, points to Such being a Colovian city. The Hammerfell reference is likely a mistake or a quirk of shifting borders. In any case, Thief of Virtue cements that Such had its own nobility, a baron instead of a count, curiously, and a formidable castle. There are other interesting literary references as well. 2 obscure books from Elder Scrolls Online add further bits of lore about Such via their authors. One is Thibet's Cairn and its History, written by Caronius of Such, clearly identifying the author as a native of the city. Another is The Rite of Boethia's Gauntlet, attributed to Thenderamor Deathblossom, who is described as Boethia's conduit of Such. Both of these imply that Such produced scholars or cult agents of some renown. In Thendaramor's case, being Boethia's conduit suggests Such had some connection to the worship of the Daedric prince Boethia, or at least that one of Boethia's chief followers hailed from there. Indeed, there is lore that we'll look at later that notes that Such in the late Second Era had to deal with Daedric cult activity. The Death Blossom overseeing Boethia's gauntlet likely did so out of Such. This paints a picture of a city that not only was a cultural centre but also had its share of dark intrigues and religious significance. And finally, for this section, we're going to take a look at military and trade history. Although detailed histories of Such are few and far between, the lore we've looked at so far, and other minor tidbits of lore I haven't specifically pointed out, provide a timeline of sorts. Such served as a strategic trade centre between Cyrodiil and Hammerfell for much of its existence. Being on the Gold Road, the highway running west from Anvil and near a navigable river, it was ideally placed for commerce. It even attracted philosophers and performers, hinting at a cosmopolitan atmosphere. Such appears to have weathered various conflicts. It held strong through the Knatin flu and local wars, and during Tiber Septim's conquest in the late Second Era, it did not become a battlefield itself. In fact, when Tiber Septim united Cyrodiil under the Third Empire, Such was one of the Colovian states that swore fealty without apparent strife. So from these lore sources and others we'll be looking at later, we can establish that Such was very much a real city in the Elder Scrolls world, prominent in the First and Second Eras and apparently still around in the Third. It had barons or counts, a castle, walls, a thriving market, and a reputation as a lively trading hub and cultural spot. This makes it all the more intriguing that when players roam Cyrodiil in Oblivion, set in the Third Era year 433, there is no city of Such to be found, only a ruined fort. The lore doesn't explicitly narrate Such's demise within the game, leaving a gap between its last known mentions and its absence by the late Third Era. To understand why, we must next look at how Oblivion handles Such, or rather doesn't handle it, and what evidence there is of this missing city in the game's design and files. When Oblivion was released in 2006, players noticed something odd about Cyrodiil's geography. The game features the capital, the Imperial City, and 8 other major city locations, such as Anvil, Bravel, Coral, etc., one for each of Cyrodiil's counties. Except that the western territory between Anvil and Kvatch has no city, only wilderness. This is peculiar because lore-wise that area corresponds to County Such. Indeed, fans soon discovered clues suggesting that Oblivion was originally supposed to include Such as a city, but that it was removed during development. So here are the main pieces of evidence that such was a missing city in Oblivion itself. For example, we have the pre-release footage and maps. In Bethesda's E3 2005 demo of Oblivion nearly a year before the game's release, the world map of Cyrodiil shown on screen included a city icon labelled such. During that demo, Todd Howard showed the game's fast travel map and all the major cities were marked. In this early build, such appears on the map northeast of Anvil, right where a Gold Coast city would logically be. However, interestingly, the icon used for such in that demo is not the usual city marker, which looks like a house, but a fort marker. This implies that by the time of the demo, the developers might have already downgraded such from city status, potentially planning to present it as a fortress or ruin instead of a full city. In the same E3 presentation, Todd Howard mentioned 9 main cities in Cyrodiil, matching the number in the final game, including the Imperial City. If such were still considered a planned city at that point, there would have been 10. The fact that he said 9 adds weight to the suggestion that such's city status was likely cut by mid-2005, even though the map still showed it, albeit as a fort icon. This E3 map with such visible wasn't just shown in demos, the data was left in the game files. An unused menu screen video in Oblivion's files contains that early scrolling map with such marked, proving that such made it fairly far along before being excised. Then there's the Oblivion game world's terrain. If you travel to the spot where such should be, north of Anvil near the border hills, you find Fort Such sitting amid an open flat field. Many players commented that the terrain there is unusually flat and empty compared to the rest of the Gold Coast's rolling hills. This is not a coincidence. Developers typically flatten terrain when planning to place a city or large structures. The UESP notes that the area around Fort Such is unusually flat and sparse compared to the rest of the Gold Coast, indicating that the land was prepared for a city that was never built. In effect, the game's landscape still bears the footprint of such, a large, level space, even though only a small fort occupies it now. The implication being that during development the city was laid out or at least planned, then removed, leaving an empty plain where it would have stood. Then there's dialogue and journal clues. Although Bethesda tried to remove references to such, a few slipped through in Oblivion's dialogue and quest text. Notably, the Fighters Guild questline has some telling remnants. In one Fighters Guild quest, Azan, the guild leader in Anvil, gives the player a contract to meet a scholar at a cave northeast of Such. Since there was no city of Such on the playable map, this direction might have confused players. Indeed, in the final game, the quest marker just points near Fort Such. More revealing is the journal entry for a later Fighters Guild quest, Mystery at Harlan's Watch. After completing it, the journal says, Burzgro Cash has paid me. He tells me he has no further contracts to offer, but I should speak with Azan in Such if I have not already. This further indicates that Azan was originally supposed to be in Such, not Anvil. In the final game, of course, Azan lives in Anvil, and that line about Such is never triggered because by then you've obviously already met Azan. The presence of that text in the game files confirms that at one stage of development the Fighters Guild had a chapter in Such with Azan as its leader. When Such was cut, Azan and the Fighters Guild Hall were relocated to Anvil, but the developers forgot to scrub all the journal references. This kind of evidence strongly supports that Such was planned as a functional city with guilds and quests, later merged into Anvil's content when Such was removed. In fact, Anvil having both a Fighters Guild and a port could have been originally split. Such might have had the Fighters Guild while Anvil had the port, for example to spread content. Then there's the missing chapel of Kinnereth. In Oblivion, each major city has a chapel dedicated to one of the 9 divines, except one. You can find the chapels of Akatosh, Arcade, Dibella, Julianos, Mara, Stendar, Talos and Zenithar, but Kinnereth, goddess of nature, has no chapel in any city. This odd omission makes more sense in light of Such. Unofficial content notes and cut files indicate that Such was meant to host the chapel of Kinnereth. When Such was cut, Kinnereth's chapel was simply dropped, and Kinnereth's worship in Cyrodiil got relegated to a small wayside shrine. This is another piece of evidence for Such. It fills a logical gap in the game's design, implying Such would have completed the 9 divines set. And then we have Oblivion gate placement. During Oblivion's main story, after a certain point, Oblivion gates, demonic portals, open outside each major city. In the final game, one such gate spawns near Fort Such, accompanied by a small squad of Imperial Legion soldiers who attempt to close it. This triggers the minor quest Attack on Fort Such. The interesting part is that Fort Such, not being a real city, still gets a gate just like the actual cities do. It seems the game treats Such as one of the city locations for gate placement. In fact, internally the cell for that gate is named in a way linking it to city events. This again suggests that the game's event scripting was set up when Such was counted among the cities. And although the city was removed, the event trigger remained, resulting in a gate at Fort Such by design. The Legion soldiers even consider it important enough to defend, which they only do for cities and strategic sites. It's as if Such is still on the list of key locations that need protection during the crisis, reinforcing that it was once intended to be a full city area. All these points paint a clear picture. Such was initially designed as a major city in Oblivion, complete with a count, or baron, guild hall, chapel, and surrounding infrastructure. Sometime before final release, the city was scrapped from the playable world. What remained in the shipped game were echoes of Such. A fort with an inexplicably large footprint, a few lines of text referencing it, and logical gaps like Kinnereth's missing chapel where Such used to fit. The natural question at this point, of course, is why Such was removed, and what remained. First, let's examine Fort Such itself, the lonely relic that Oblivion players can actually find, to see what it tells us about the lost city. Fort Such is all that remains of the city on the game map. Located north of Anvil along the Gold Road and a bit west toward Hammerfell's border, Fort Such is an old stone fortress ruin nestled in the Colovian Highlands. By the time the hero of Kvatch arrives, no thriving town exists there. What you find is essentially a deserted fortification overtaken by outlaws. Despite this, Fort Such's presence in quests and its design provide tantalizing hints of its past. First, there's its in-game appearance and layout. Fort Such consists of a walled fort structure with the typical crumbling walls and a couple of intact interior zones underground. During the Dark Brotherhood quest Bad Medicine, the assassin Teneva advises you about Fort Such and mentions the ruins of a tower once part of Fort Such Abbey, which lies a distance from the main fort connected by underground tunnels. Indeed, in that quest you can enter the fort through the old abbey entrance far from the main courtyard. This is unusual. Most forts in Cyrodiil don't have separate named annexes like an abbey. The presence of an abbey suggests that Fort Such was part of a larger complex, likely the city's religious centre outside the main castle. This implies a significant settlement once existed, a fortified abbey and the main keep interconnected, something beyond a lone military outpost. It's consistent with the idea that Such had a chapel of Kinnereth, possibly with the abbey being its remains. The fort's interior spaces are comparatively small, only a few zones, but the surrounding area is conspicuously broad and flat as mentioned earlier. Walking around Fort Such, one can observe a large flat plateau as if the ground had been cleared, perhaps for city streets and buildings that were never placed. This empty feel around Fort Such in-game had long led players to suspect a missing city even before knowing the cut content details. By the time of Oblivion, Fort Such is not held by any noble or official faction. Instead, it's occupied by mercenaries turned bandits. In the aforementioned Dark Brotherhood quest Bad Medicine, you infiltrate Fort Such to assassinate a warlord named Roderick. The interesting part is that if you visit Fort Such before that quest, Roderick and his mercenaries aren't present at all. The fort will only have a handful of generic bandits inhabiting it. This indicates that, in peacetime, Such has no permanent settlement or guards. It's essentially lawless. The official mercenary company appears there only because the Dark Brotherhood storyline spawns them for the quest. After the quest, presumably the fort is empty again or back to being a minor bandit hideout. There is no count of such, no city guard, no villagers. The fort is explicitly no longer under any protection, rule, or care by the authorities of Cyrodiil. All of this fits the narrative that the city of Such had fallen into ruin long ago. We can look next at the structural clues from a game file's point of view. Fort Such's layout in the construction set, the game's editor, gives away more of its origin. Unlike typical forts, which usually occupy one exterior cell on the map, Fort Such spans multiple map cells named explicitly after Such. Data miners found that there are cells for Fort Such Exterior 01, 02, Fort Such Abbey Exterior, and even Fort Such Castle Exterior. In-game, of course, Fort Such doesn't actually have a visible castle separate from the fort. That castle cell is empty space in the final game. The existence of those cell names strongly implies that the fort was originally part of a much larger city layout. A castle area, an abbey area, etc., which were never populated with actual city architecture during development. It appears that Bethesda deleted the city structures but left some world space cells and naming conventions in place. Another subtle hint is a nearby location called Brina Cross. In Oblivion's final map, the Brina Cross Inn sits at a crossroads on the Gold Road north of Anvil. The name stands out because it's not just called something like the Gold Road Inn, it implies a crossing or junction. The early game map seen in the pre-release footage had a label Brina Cross, likely for the junction of roads from Anvil, Kvatch and Such. Such's presence would have created a three-way crossroads there, roads leading to Kvatch, Anvil and Such, or the Brenner River. After Such's removal, that spot was populated with a lone inn to give some point of interest in the empty region. Therefore, the inn's name, Brina Cross, is a vestige of the idea that this was a significant junction. It's a minor detail, but it shows how game content was adjusted to fill the void left by Such's cancellation. All in all, Fort Such in Oblivion is a shell, the last physical remnant of what was going to be a full-fledged city. The fort's unusually extensive layout, the unique Abbey component, its importance in a quest and Oblivion Gate event, and the absence of any civil authority all point to a city that fell into ruin long before the game's time. From a lore perspective, by the time of Oblivion, Such has already been gone for some time, its population dispersed or dead, its walls crumbling and overrun by brigands. The game never directly explains this, but it provides the stage on which we can imagine that story. With the evidence of Such's planned inclusion and removal firmly established, let's turn to why it was removed. What do developers and community researchers say about the cutting of Such, and what speculation exists about Bethesda's decision to axe an entire city from Oblivion? While Bethesda did not publish an official detailed account of cutting Such, we have various pieces of developer commentary and cut content analysis that shed light on the decision. So let's take a look at what is known or can be inferred about how and why Such was dropped during Oblivion's development, as well as the speculative reasoning behind it. The consensus among modders and community historians, supported by a few developer hints, is that Such was cut for practical development reasons, primarily time and resource constraints. Essentially, the team couldn't finish everything and chose to remove one city to lighten the load. Oblivion was an ambitious game with a new engine and many new systems, Radiant AI, large world, etc., and even with a sizable team, Bethesda had to trim content to meet release deadlines. Creating a city in Oblivion wasn't trivial. Each city had unique architecture, NPCs with schedules and dialogue, quests, interiors, pathing, etc. It's been noted that Oblivion's cities were scaled back from their original concepts due to console hardware limits and disk space concerns. For example, all cities ended up being smaller and walled off into separate loaded cells, where originally the devs considered fully open cities. They also cut planned features like arenas in every city, reducing it to one arena in the Imperial City. With this context of cutting back, it seems that such was the largest single cut. An entire city dropped early enough that little of its content remained by final game. Internally, such likely wasn't as developed as the other cities when the cut was made, perhaps why it was chosen. The cutting room floor notes that very little of its existence actually remains in the game files, implying most assets or quests for such were never fully implemented or were removed cleanly. From a design perspective, Bethesda might have assessed that such contributed the least to the main storyline or unique gameplay. For instance, Kvatch was needed for the main plot, it's destroyed but central to the story, and each other city has multiple quests and NPCs tied to guilds and the main quest. Such, being on the border, might have been somewhat peripheral. We've already seen evidence that they planned at least a Fighters Guild presence and possibly some side quests, like the Scholar at Brittle Rock Cave, but perhaps it didn't have a major story role. When push came to shove, Bethesda put one city on the chopping block and such was it. This aligns with speculation in the fan community that such was removed because it was the least essential city for the game's narrative, making it the easiest to cut without leaving a gaping hole in the main quest or guild storylines. However, this may not entirely be the case, as we'll explore later. We've already covered many of the leftover evidences like map markers, quest text, etc., but from a development perspective, these give clues when such was cut. The Fighters Guild journal entries, for example, indicate that at least some guild quest planning had such in mind. The fact these were left in suggests the change happened somewhat last minute, or at least after writing the journal text. On the other hand, no physical house or NPC data for such a city exists in the files. No unused such NPCs or building message labelled for such have been found, meaning the city was likely axed before they placed NPCs in the world. So Bethesda might have drawn up such on paper, possibly started greyboxing the city layout, we know concept art existed, more on that in a moment, and written some quest outlines, but then halted and reassigned that content to other places, e.g. Anvil. The unique cell names, Fort Such, Castle Exterior, etc. remain as ghost outlines of the intended city extent, and notably, one cell, County Such Docks Exterior, exists and is actually used on the world map, west of where Such would be. It's a coastal cell with a river inlet. Possibly they considered giving Such a small port or docks area connecting to the Abyssinian Sea. The cell itself has no actual docks in the final game, just a river mouth, but its name suggests an earlier design where Such had access to waterways, consistent with that lake or river connection seen on the early map. The presence of that cell and its inclusion in the final world space indicates the world designers had partly built the area but then abandoned the city, leaving the empty docks cell in place, maybe as a natural river delta. Returning to concept art, in the Making of Oblivion documentary, there is a brief glimpse of a board showing concept art for all the cities of Cyrodiil. Fans who scrutinised that footage noticed Such's concept art pinned among the city designs. Lead artist Matthew Carafano is even seen pointing at the Such drawing in one shot, though the documentary never verbally discusses Such, likely because it was cut. From the blurry still, dedicated fans managed to deduce Such's possible layout. It might have been planned as a city by the water. Interestingly, the concept art suggests that Such was to be built on an island or peninsula on a river with a bridge connecting it to the mainland. This is a bit different from the E3 map, which showed a lake northeast of Such with perhaps a causeway. The concept seems to place the city itself astride a river's mouth. If true, this means Such went through iterations. Possibly at concept stage, a lakeside city, then revised to a more inland fort with a separate lake or dock, and then removed entirely. The variation in designs implies the team experimented with how to integrate Such's geography. The final Oblivion terrain as shipped doesn't have a lake or island at Such's site, just that flat plateau. So either they never terraformed the lake in, or they removed it when they cut Such. Some fans speculate that Such might have been envisioned almost like a coastal trading city with canals or an island castle. Something unique in flavour compared to the other Colovian cities. All told, the developer evidence portrays a picture of a city that was conceived with a full feature set. Guilds, chapel, possibly an arena, castle and docks, but then removed early enough that only map references and quest text hints remain. Todd Howard and other devs have spoken generally about cutting things from Oblivion. For example, Todd has commented on how Radiant AI had to be toned down and city features cut to fit the game on the Xbox 360, etc. It's easy to imagine Such was one casualty of those trims. But why Such specifically? We've touched upon it here or there, but we're going to enter the realm of speculation, but hopefully informed speculation. One area of speculation might be redundancy or balance. Cyrodiil already had another Gold Coast city, Anvil, and had a nearby city in Kvatch. Though of course Kvatch is destroyed in-game, it still counts in lore. Perhaps the designers felt that Western Cyrodiil had one city too many. Another speculation is quest content load. As we've seen already, Such might have originally been planned to host some side quests or a minor faction quest hub. The Fighters Guild evidence suggests guild quests originating there. But we haven't touched upon why Such was chosen for cutting. By moving those to Anvil or elsewhere, they could reduce one whole city's worth of work, AI schedules, dialogue, etc. And we are really going to delve into that in the next section. So to understand why Such may not have had enough content to justify its existence in the final release, we have to factor in a major piece of cut quest content, which this time involves politics. Or more specifically, a political storyline that was quietly gutted during development. In an early version of Oblivion, Bethesda had planned an entire questline surrounding the Elder Council, the powerful ruling body left in charge of the Empire after the death of Uriel Septim. That storyline would have seen the player rise through the ranks of Imperial nobility with titles such as Count of Kvatch and eventually Duke of Colovia, a high-ranking seat on the Elder Council itself. The cutting room floor and various developer comments hint at what this nobility arc might have looked like. The player was to begin by helping rebuild Kvatch after its destruction in the Daedric Assault, eventually being named Count to replace the fallen ruler. From there, the path would lead deeper into Cyrodiilic politics, ending in a seat on the Elder Council as Duke of Colovia, representing the Western Colovian Highlands. An area that would, quite logically, include Such. The implications are absolutely relevant to the cutting of Such. A Duke of Colovia would require a seat of power. Kvatch was ruined and Anvil was already governed by Countess Malona Umbranox. That leaves Such, or more accurately a restored Castle Such, as the most likely candidate for the player's personal stronghold in this cut storyline. As one Redditor speculated, Such was intended to become the player's personal stronghold as part of that questline. It adds a layer of meaning to the Baron Ignace mentioned in Thief of Virtue, if that barony was meant to become the player's own. The very title Baron of Colovia or Duke of Colovia suggests that Such was once more than a footnote. It was central to a story of ambition, power and political ascent. But that storyline was axed before it was implemented. Todd Howard, in a fan interview, later confirmed that the Elder Council questline was cut early because it defocused the main quest from dealing with the Daedra, diluting the sense of urgency in the Oblivion crisis. The political manoeuvring, the noble titles, and the rise to dukehood were shelved so that the game could focus more tightly on the Daedric threat. It's certainly one of my I wish it had this things, Todd admitted, lamenting the loss of a system that would have let the player take a seat at the Imperial table. And with the Elder Council content gone, Such may have gone with it. Without a need for a Colovian capital city under the player's control, there was no longer a narrative function for a city like such. If it once was intended as the player's political base, its removal becomes clearer. It didn't fit the revised vision of a streamlined, Daedra-focused narrative. Such, like the nobility system that would have elevated us to rule it, was deemed a distraction. Today, of course, all that's left are hints: the unused nobility faction, the missing quest MS-50 between the Kvatch missions, and the flat land at Fort Such that looks like it was meant for something grander. A city perhaps, a capital, a seat of power for the newest Duke of Colovia, a title that, like the city of Such, never came to be. It's worth emphasising what we've looked at, that there are two ways to frame Such's disappearance. One is from a real-world development standpoint, Bethesda cut it, and the other is from an in-universe lore standpoint, some historical event caused its ruin. Bethesda's cut created a lore gap that had to be rationalised. Initially, Oblivion itself gave no explanation, effectively leaving it as a mystery or assuming players might not notice. Over time, later games and materials like Elder Scrolls Online have retroactively filled in lore reasons for Such's fall, which we'll explore later. This is a common phenomenon in large fictional universes. A development decision later gets woven into the lore as if it was planned all along. So, as we've seen, developer evidence strongly indicates that Such was dropped due to limitations in development bandwidth. It was likely removed relatively early in level production, enough that very few assets needed deletion, but after some quest writing occurred, hence the journals and dialogues that slipped through, the team likely prioritised other content and felt Such was the lowest priority city. Fans discovered these remnants, and thus the lost city of Such became a piece of Elder Scrolls legend in its own right. As we've alluded to and we'll see later, Bethesda did get a chance to revisit Such in a different game, Elder Scrolls Online, effectively canonising some aspects of it. But before that, it was the modding community that took up the mantle to restore Such in Oblivion. The mystery of Such and the obvious gap it left in Oblivion's world have inspired fans to fill in the void themselves. Over the years, multiple mods have been created to reintroduce the city of Such into Oblivion's game world. These projects ranged from simple additions of a small town to ambitious reconstructions of a full-fledged city with quests and NPCs. Here, we'll highlight a few notable fan efforts that bring Such back to life, along with my favourite, which we'll look into in a bit more detail. One of the earlier and popular mods was Imperial Empire Unique Cities Such. This mod re-adds the Cyrodiilic city of Such to Oblivion, and attempts to do so in a lore-friendly way. It builds Such as a functional settlement in the Gold Coast, complete with walls, buildings and residents. Imperial Such was part of a series that enhanced or added to cities, and in this case it essentially creates Such from scratch based on the modder's interpretation. It gives the player a chance to visit a new city where only a fort ruin stood in the vanilla game. According to its description, the city was designed to mesh with evidence from earlier versions of Oblivion, likely referring to the pre-release info available about Such. The mod thereby acts as a restoration, making Such a living city once more. Another approach was taken by a team on AFK Mods, a community site. Their Such Village mod is described as our take on restoring Such to the game, based on extremely sketchy lore found in scattered places on the web. This wording acknowledges that they compiled all the hints about Such and then had to exercise some creative liberty. Sketchy lore indeed, since much was speculative, to design the settlement. Such village presumably is smaller, called a village rather than city, perhaps imagining Such in a later stage of decline. Mods like this sometimes choose to depict Such not at its height but as a modest town struggling to rebuild, which can align nicely with lore that it was ruined. It's a creative interpretation to have such exist in the time of Oblivion without contradicting the fact that it's supposed to be ruined. Maybe the mod frames it as a resettlement attempt by some folks near the fort. Beyond mods for the original Oblivion engine, the ambitious Skyblivion project, a fan remake of Oblivion in the Skyrim engine, has taken a keen interest in such. The Skyblivion developers have explicitly stated they will include the City of Such in their remake and even expand on it. According to a PC Gamer article, Skyblivion will expand Fort Such into an entire city ruin inhabited by bandits while still accommodating the Dark Brotherhood quest and the Oblivion Gate event at that location. In other words, they plan to depict Such as a ruined city, presumably remnants of walls and buildings with bandits camped in them which the player can explore. This approach keeps the lore that Such is gone by the time of Oblivion, but instead of just an empty fort, they will present it as a larger ruined cityscape, a sort of what might have been scenario. Skyblivion is even adding a huge dungeon under Such inspired by the idea of cut content. They referenced the UESP's documentation of Such's evidence, like the journal entries in flat terrain, as inspiration to do the cut city justice in the remake. Essentially, the modders are seizing the opportunity to restore Bethesda's cut content, so players will get to experience a version of Such within the Skyblivion game. Given Skyblivion's wide scope and visibility, this means the legendary lost city of Such is being canonised in a fan remake context, likely with their own narrative explaining its ruin. It's an elegant solution. Players will be able to explore a bandit-infested ruin of Such, consistent with Oblivion's timeline that the city's glory days are over, yet satisfying the curiosity of what the city might have looked like. And among the many mods that seek to resurrect Such, the Imperial City of Such Reborn by the Dragon Captions team is my favourite. Originally released in 2008 and updated for years afterwards, the mod transforms Fort Such and its surrounding plains into a sprawling settlement complete with districts, docks, voiced NPCs, and its own civic identity. The mod imagines a backstory in which Such was sacked by the bandit King Roderick in the early years of Uriel Septim's reign, left in ruins for over 4 decades. The player, as Champion of Cyrodiil, is tasked with completing Chancellor Okato's mission, a royal decree to reclaim and rebuild the fallen city. The city itself is structured into named districts: the Plaza, the New Haven Residential Quarter, a castle sector, and the Chapel Plaza, each with distinct architectural styles and functions. To the southwest, the Owl Cove docks extend the settlement down to the river, complete with shops, taverns, homes, and an inn. The level of detail here is amazing, with over 7 main quests and a bunch of minor ones, plus fully scripted AI packages and voiced characters. Such Reborn behaves like a full Bethesda-made city. Some of the design choices also reflect the lore Bethesda had hinted at but never implemented. For instance, the docks sit within the game's unused County Such docks cell, one of the leftovers in the construction set from when Such was likely still in active development. The mod uses this exact location, linking Bethesda's scrapped geography to a new functioning urban space. From a story perspective, Such Reborn runs with the idea that the city once stood proud before being overrun. The bandit king Roderick is obviously an extension of the same Roderick seen in the vanilla Fort Such Dark Brotherhood quest. But here he becomes the central villain in a restoration arc that has you ultimately returning Such to glory. There is even a player home, scripted events tied to ogre attacks, and a side quest involving a villa near Skingrad. Unlike many mods that begin and end as environment add-ons, Such Reborn ties the city's return into a full narrative, drawing on unused assets and lore fragments while confidently filling in the gaps. It feels like the definitive version of Such that might have existed had Bethesda followed through on their early Elder Council or Baron of Colovia questlines. So, as you can see, the fan community did not let Such remain a footnote. Through mods, they have kept the idea of such alive, either by restoring it as a living city or depicting its ruins in more detail. These efforts demonstrate the love and what-if wonder the Elder Scrolls fans have. Where Bethesda had to say, "We can't do this," modders have effectively said, "We'll do it for you." So now that we've seen how fans addressed such's absence, let's now turn to how Bethesda themselves actually revisited such. Not in Oblivion, but in the Elder Scrolls Online. ESO, set in the Second Era, provided the perfect opportunity to portray such at its height, or at least while it still existed, and to offer an official explanation for its eventual disappearance. Roughly a decade and some change after Oblivion's release, the Elder Scrolls Online finally gave such its moment in the spotlight. ESO is set in the Second Era, specifically around the year 582, which is about 800 years before the events of Oblivion, and frequently expands the map of Tamriel with new zones and chapters. In one of its updates, ESO introduced the Gold Coast region of Cyrodiil, the same area containing Anvil and Kvatch. Fans were immediately curious: would such, which lore places on the Gold Coast, appear in this portrayal of the Second Era? The answer turned out to be yes. Such is present in ESO as a settlement, giving us our first official explorable version of the city that was lost in Oblivion. Such in the year 582 of the Second Era is a town. Not one of the biggest cities of Cyrodiil, but a prosperous trading hub nonetheless. The developers did not make it a massive walled city on the scale of, say, Coral or Shadenhall, but it's far from a mere village. It has a distinct layout and several points of interest. The town features winding streets and a central square with a well surrounded by houses and shops. This layout aligns with a description in the lore. In the centre of such lies the town square, with paths winding out from the centre to the rest of the city. It suggests a somewhat organic, perhaps crowded town plan, rather than the rigid layouts seen in some other imperial cities. Notable locations include Rosalind's alchemy shop, Tham's tavern, the Such depository, a Such mine, and a way shrine for fast travel. The Such depository indicates the town's wealth and role as a trade centre, whereas the mine suggests local industry, mining being a source of income for the townsfolk. The tavern and alchemy shop give the place commercial life and character. And in terms of population, Such is said to be mixed between Imperials and Redguards, which makes sense given its border location. Lore had mentioned that dynamic, a place where Colovians and Hammerfell traders mingle. The most compelling part of Such's appearance in ESO, though, is the storyline associated with it. Such in Elder Scrolls Online is not a peaceful town when the player arrives. It's actually in the middle of a crisis, one that foreshadows its later doom. The main quest in Such, titled Terror of the Weald, involves a group of vampires overrunning the town. Obviously, as the player, it's up to you to save the town and population, or what's left of it. The town is in such a state that it really is uncertain that it can ever recover from this calamity. It has a terrible reputation now, travellers will avoid it even more, and it's lost most of its workforce and talent. Rebuilding will take enormous effort and investment, and it's unclear if help will ever come. Elder Scrolls Online leaves it somewhat open-ended. Such isn't instantly a ghost town, but it is badly crippled. This event is strongly implied to be the beginning of the end for Such. Essentially, Bethesda used this storyline to provide a logical in-world cause for Such's eventual disappearance by the late Third Era. A vampire-induced catastrophe that plunged the town into decline from which it never fully recovered. If we align timelines, after this incident, Such might limp on for a while. It was still marked on maps later in the Second Era and even in the early Third Era, suggesting perhaps it was rebuilt to some extent or at least remained known. But one can imagine that it never really returned to its former glory and gradually became depopulated. Perhaps by the time of Tiber Septim's unification, Such was a shell of a city. There is a lore reference that sea shanties from Such were popular among sailors around the time of the Tiber War, which suggests Such was still inhabited enough to have a culture. If sailors know songs from Such, presumably its port or docks were still active around then. So maybe the town did rebuild partially under the Riemann Empire or during the interregnum after the vampire incident. However, come the Third Era, we don't hear much of Such at all. It's likely that sometime in the early to mid-Third Era, perhaps during a crisis or economic shift, that Such finally was abandoned or destroyed, leaving only the fort by the time of Oblivion. Regardless, Elder Scrolls Online giving us the vampire invasion of Such is a brilliant bit of retroactive storytelling. It provides a concrete dramatic reason for why the city fell somewhere long before the events of Oblivion. In essence, the developers took advantage of a loose thread and tied it off with an event that fits Elder Scrolls themes: supernatural danger, local heroism, tragedy. For fans, it was very gratifying to see Such acknowledged in official lore at last. It felt like a homage to the community's interest, and it enriches the world by not leaving a blank spot on the map. So, as we've seen, the Elder Scrolls Online resurrected Such in the Second Era, contextualizing it as a place that experienced quite an extreme misfortune and possibly never fully recovered. This not only allowed players to finally see Such, but it also integrated the Lost City into the official narrative, explaining its disappearance in a story sense. The inclusion of Such in ESO effectively canonizes what was previously only hinted. Such did exist as a city, and something catastrophic led to its ruin. With ESO's events, we can say that by the time of Oblivion, the memory of Such would be of a city that fell long ago, which aligns perfectly with Oblivion's depiction of just a fort ruin. Now that we've examined Such's journey from lore to lost content to fan revival and official revival, let's discuss the various theories on its disappearance in-universe and any remaining mysteries. After all, ESO's explanation is one, but are there other possibilities or unanswered questions? From an in-universe perspective, the disappearance of Such as an inhabited city by the late Third Era begs for speculation. While Elder Scrolls Online provides a strong explanation, the vampire massacre and ensuing decline, lore enthusiasts have debated a few other theories over the years, especially before ESO shed light on it. So let's explore the main theories and factors considered regarding why Such vanished from Cyrodiil's political map. The most direct theory, now supported by ESO's storyline, is that Such was effectively destroyed by the vampire crisis of the Second Era. The bandit vampire attack killed most of the population, and although the immediate threat was quelled, the town never fully recovered. It likely became a ghost town over subsequent decades or centuries due to a loss of trade and manpower. Perhaps some survivors rebuilt in the short term, enough for it to appear on maps through the late Second Era, but the golden days were over. By the time the Septim Empire solidified, Such might have been reduced to a minor settlement. Its county was absorbed by Kvatch, possibly because there was no longer a functioning city or ruler in Such. Over the Third Era, any remaining village at Such's site could have withered away, or been abandoned during crises like the Imperial Simulacrum when turmoil gripped the Empire in the late Third Era, or the Warp in the West, a massive Dragonbreak event also in the late Third Era, which of course leads to the time of Oblivion, where only the fort, maintained in some capacity for strategic reasons, stands as a marker of Such's former location. This theory essentially says Such died a slow death after a Second Era tragedy. Another theory that has been floated is more mundane. Perhaps Such simply could not sustain itself economically or politically once Cyrodiil was fully unified. Consider that in the Riemann and Second Empire period, Such had value as a border trading hub with Hammerfell. But once the Septim Empire united all of Tamriel, internal border trade might have been less lucrative. If goods could flow freely across provinces, Such might lose its unique position. Additionally, the rise of Kvatch and Anvil as major centres under the Third Empire's administration might have overshadowed such. Kvatch in particular, being a kingdom county seat with a long history, could have drawn resources and people away from such. It's noted that by the Third Era, the area that was County Such was administered as part of County Kvatch. This suggests an administrative reorganisation, possibly intentional by the Empire. Some have speculated that perhaps Such was outright destroyed in a later war, such as the Tiber Wars or other conflicts in the early Third Era. For instance, Tiber Septim's campaign to conquer Hammerfell involved battles along the Colovian border. It's conceivable that Such, being near Hammerfell, could have been caught in the crossfire or sacked by one side. However, lore doesn't explicitly record a sack of Such during Tiber's conquest. In fact, sources say Such swore fealty peacefully when Colovia united under Tiber. Another conflict could be the War of the Red Diamond, a civil war in the early Third Era among Septim pretenders. That war did see battles in Cyrodiil, although it's mostly recorded around the Imperial City and some eastern areas. There is no mention of such, but a local skirmish or razing is not impossible. And then there's the Hammerfell annexation theory. Tying into the odd reference from the Thief of Virtue book, one theory is that perhaps Hammerfell once annexed Such, or that there was another settlement named Such in Hammerfell. The book stating Such is in Hammerfell prompted fans to wonder if at some point Such's territory could have been ceded to Hammerfell, maybe during the interregnum when Cyrodiil was fractured. If Such had become Hammerfell's, the Empire retaking it later could have left it devastated. Alternatively, if there were coincidentally another Such, though that's not supported by any other text, it could confuse the matter. However, the simplest explanation is that the Hammerfell mention is simply an error. Then there's the possibility of a natural disaster or some other calamity. While not widely suggested, it's worth noting that sometimes cities fall to plagues, fires, or other disasters unrelated to war or monsters. As an example, Cyrodiil had the Knatin flu in the late Second Era, but Such clearly survived that since it was active after. There's no mention of a huge fire or earthquake or anything as such, so this is a less likely angle. The vampire infestation effectively fills the role of a calamity. In evaluating these theories, the most comprehensive explanation is a combination. The vampire blood fiend plague of the Second Era gravely wounded Such, it limped on but lost status, its county was absorbed by Kvatch. It might have faced further strife under Tiber or others. Ultimately, it dwindled to nothing, with only the fort remaining by the time of Oblivion. We must also consider, if Such was only fairly recently gone by the time of Oblivion, wouldn't people talk about it as a historical footnote? It's interesting that no NPC in Oblivion ever mentions the old city of Such. They speak of Fort Such as a present place, as a ruin or landmark, but not of a lost city. This could simply be because Bethesda didn't script such conversations, not wanting to confuse players with a city they can't see. In lore though, presumably scholars in-universe do know that a city called Such once existed. The fact that Thief of Virtue and other books still circulate in Oblivion's time indicates the memory isn't entirely gone. So an in-world scholar or a librarian could theoretically have told the player about Such's history, but the game just never broaches it. Taken as a whole, the tale of Such's vanishing is a blend of fact and speculation that demonstrates how Elder Scrolls lore evolves. What started as a development cut became a mystery, then fan conjecture, and eventually was woven back into official lore as a piece of actual history. All in all, the Lost City of Such is a fascinating case where game development and game lore intersected to create an enduring mystery. On one hand, Such exemplifies a practical reality. Bethesda had to trim content, and thus an entire city was dropped from Oblivion during development, leaving ghostly traces in the game's code and world. On the other hand, within the wider narrative of the Elder Scrolls, Such is now the story of a once thriving Colovian city that met a tragic fate. a footnote in history by the time we, as Oblivion players, tour Cyrodiil. For me, as with anything that has a hint of mystery about it, such will always hold a special allure. Obviously, that's where this video came from, and what drove me to explore the mystery of such from all angles. Design documents to lore books, and we can finally say we mostly know what happened to it. Both in the real world it was cut, and in the fictional world it fell to tragedy. It's a fantastic example of how cut content can spawn the mystery of a missing city that inspires investigation and, in the end, brand new storytelling to fit it into the lore properly. As players, we're actually pretty lucky that the community and the developers both took steps over the years to resolve this mystery. Anyway, let's end on a wistful note. The next time you're near where such would have been, take a moment to look over the quiet hills and the empty area. In your mind's eye, picture the tall castle walls of Baron Ignace, the chapel of Kinreth ringing its bells, the merchants haggling in the marketplace, the signs of life that are silent in the remaining nature. Imagine the bustling city that could have been. Oblivion's missing city may never officially appear in Oblivion itself, but thanks to lore, modders, subsequent appearances, and community imagination, it lives on. A worthy piece of Elder Scrolls lore, a reality in one game, a half-memory in another.
man, this episode of Bobby Monsoon is sponsored by Progressive. You know, make sure you get that insurance so you don't be an emotional wreck like me watching this stupid ass show called Raw on Netflix. I don't care what anybody online is saying. This show sucks. This is the worst era of WWE. I don't want to hear about 2017, 2018. It's not even close. Whenever we're ending a show with a grown ass man putting his sweaty ass finger in another grown man's mouth, just know we're in trouble. CM Skunk! Look at you, bro. Like, this dude literally looks like a fish that got caught in a bait. Is this the World Wrestling Entertainment or the World Fishing Network? What are we doing? There was one MVP of the night, and it was the guy with the glasses. He was in the front row. This was the only dude that had a sign, "We want Cross." Quebec, Canada. Come on, man. Y'all cannot let WWE get away with the crap. They just pulled on Karrion Kross. Y'all supposed to hijack that show. We would Cross. We would Cross. But instead, you can hear a mouse piss on cotton for Cross. We only had one fan with the We Want Cross shirt sign or whatever. And I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't going to be enough. Next week, when we get back to the States, I don't know where we're at. I don't care either. Hopefully, man, we got the We Want Cross chance. We got to hijack. We're really going to let WWE get away what they did with Karrion Kross and Scarlett? Tell me in what world it makes sense to put Karrion Kross and Scarlett on a release list, but keep Tozawa. Tell me in what world that makes sense. Put it in the comments. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm slow. Maybe I'm missing something. Raw started off in a segment between CM Skunk and LA Knight. The LA and LA Knight completely means losing aura now. LA Knight's momentum is somewhere in a lost and found backstage in Gorilla. It's just over, bro. There's no way he's about to go over. There's no way he's about to get any type of title. But like I told y'all in my last video, there's other belts available. Louis, Gucci, Prada. Or maybe he could get a replica belt from the WWE store. Triple H is not putting a belt, a title, or anything like that on this man anytime soon. And after that, they get interrupted by Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman, and Bronson Reed with the, ooh, smelly sneakers around his neck. I don't know who's coming up with this stupid ass storyline to have a Foot Locker around Bronson Reed's big ass neck. But man, that storyline is horrible. It's trash. It's boring. It's burying Roman Reigns. It's burying the guy. We have literally seen Roman Reigns go from the tribal chief to the tribal feet. This is depressing to watch, man. Dude is walking around without his shoes. He's gonna get athlete's foot. Bronson Reed's character is so confusing. He has on all black glasses with sneakers around his neck. Okay, what are we doing here? Is he supposed to be a funeral director or a walking Foot Locker? Is he selling caskets or Concords? This shit is horrible, bro. Then you got the next match, Dominic Mysterio, El Grande Americano versus AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And the only thing I'm thinking as they're coming out is, bro, we really just let Karrion Kross go and we kept somebody like Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee, outside of him doing flips inside the ring here and there and having some affiliation with NWO, tell me one thing anyone knows about Dragon Lee and his story. Imagine trading the brand new car you just got and keeping the skateboard you got in your garage for means of transportation. It makes no sense. Imagine letting go a multi-million-dollar lottery ticket to keep the coupons you cut out of a newspaper. It makes no sense. I couldn't even watch this match. I couldn't take it serious. I'm so sick of the El Grande Americano shit. Ludwig Kaiser, we're completely forgetting anything about that name. Even though the fans were chanting Ludwig Kaiser, he's not building his character at all. If he's gonna do El Grande Americano, at least let him still do Ludwig Kaiser. Why isn't Ludwig Kaiser with Gunther and doing El Grande Americano? Dog, the booking makes absolutely no sense, bro. Next, we got Sami Zayn versus Prince Albert. And man, Rusev, my bad. Rusev's hairy ass chest had me confused with Prince Albert back in the day, man. But they have a match absolutely about nothing. They only bring Sami Zayn out so the crowd could glaze Sami Zayn because he's from Canada or wherever he's from. But hey, look at the bright side, y'all. We got a surprise appearance from the bum line. Solo Sikoa, Bachelor, Jeff Cobb, Hakuna Matata. They come out. They beat Sami Zayn up, and oh man, we're excited to see where this gonna go Friday. My ass. Y'all know I'll be tapping in every week, Raw and SmackDown. I watch it, I talk about it, we bust it up in the comments. Man, where did this come from? Out of nowhere, Sami Zayn just has beef with the bum line and now Rusev, and they're trying so hard to push Sami lame. And I'm getting sick of it, bro. Seriously, man. I used to love Sami Zayn and his character, but just the whole Hulk Hogan, you're hawking up, you're coming back like Rocky. We're so sick of it. Oh yeah, not to mention, for the 147,000th time, we have another stupid-ass brawl between Rusev and Sheamus. Oh yeah, Sheamus. Because you should be ashamed of being part of this crap. You will never hear me call you Sheamus again unless you get your act together. Or you're not entertained right after a botch. I'm still having nightmares about that. Slammies this year, this feud is guaranteed to win an award of the most idiotic, stupid, dumbest, nothing feud that ever was brought in WWE, literally. I'm more interested in Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree over Rusev and Sheamus. Bro, I'm so sick of this feud. They're fighting for nothing. They don't even know why they're fighting. They don't even know what they're fighting about. Rusev just came back. They literally have nothing to be fighting over. Next, you got a match between Roxanne Perez and Io Sky. And all of this was for, guess what this was for, y'all? This was so the Kabuki Warriors could come in and stink the place up. We're gonna keep the Kabuki Warriors, but we're gonna let Karrion Kross and Scarlett go. Put it in the comments if I'm missing something. Keep the Kabuki Warriors. Let Karrion Kross go. Oh my God, man. Next, you got Maxine Dupree versus Becky Lynch. Shout out Maxine. Shout out Becky. Shout out Natalya. Tozawa, what are you doing? You see how Natalya came out to the ring? She got her high heels on, her jeans, because she's not wrestling. You have your stupid ass headband, your knee pads, your stupid ass pants, your boots. Knowing you're not wrestling. You wrestle about 2 to 3 times a year. Are you serious, bro? Like I said at the beginning of the video, we're gonna keep Tozawa and let go of Karrion Kross. It makes absolutely no sense. What do this dude has anything to do with a woman's match? If you ask me, this is how you're supposed to book Tozawa. Look, Julia has the women's US title. Go on to SmackDown and try to start a feud with Julia so maybe you could get a shot at the women's US title. Nobody in the men's division is literally taking you serious. We'll take a women's referee. We're taking Michael Cole, Corey Graves. We're taking Paula Vick and Bruce Pritchard and Nick Khan and any one of them corporate fucks in offices before we take you serious. Now, one thing I did like about Raw, this was my favorite part of the show, to be honest, Bayley. She does a vignette. She says, oh man, it's all my fault. My career's going nowhere. I miss SummerSlam. I miss WrestleMania. So she seems like she's going on a hill turn, and she's put together a tiny bit of a Wyatt 6 kind of feel to me. I don't know if y'all felt like that. Let me know in the comments, but you got the girl screaming at the very, very end of the promo. I hope she doesn't join the Wyatt shit. I hope she doesn't join them. Bayley could stand as a heel on her own. I just hope maybe she becomes the mean version of the good Bayley, kind of like a Joker type of clown type gimmick. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what direction you want to see Bayley in. I am interested to see in that. Now the next match, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed versus Sam Skunk and LA Knight. And man, like I don't even know where to begin with this. Now this match meant absolutely nothing but to set up a 4-way match at Trash at Paris. Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, LA Knight, CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. This fatal 4-way, why would we care, bro? We all know Seth Rollins most likely going over. They're not gonna put the belt back on Punk that fast. They're not gonna put the belt on Jey Uso. He had a horrible title reign. You know, LA Knight, he won't be getting a belt anytime soon unless he go to a designer store, Walmart, Target. There's a lot of belts there. LA Knight won't be getting any type of belt. So we know Seth Rollins is gonna somehow go over. We know somehow Paul Heyman, Braun. It's too many Brons. Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker. Somehow they're gonna interfere to make sure Seth goes over, and then we're stuck with fucking Trash at Paris and talking about how horrible of a show that was. And I can't wait until oh man, Professor Monsoon coming out for that one, and you could bet your ass that. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. This Raw on Netflix show, like a lot of other shows, complete trash truck juice. It's like literally nothing going on the show, nothing compelling. I don't want to hear about good wrestling or anything like that. Where are the storylines? Is anything on this show that's gonna have me coming back next week? Absolutely nothing. There's not one thing that happened on this show that I'm excited to see next week. The Bayley thing was like, oh, I kind of want to see where they go from there, but if they go nowhere, I won't lose any sleep. I won't care, not even a little bit. Raw on Netflix is horrible. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. Also, what do y'all think about this Karrion Kross situation? Man, like we need to touch on that a little bit more too, man. The Karrion Kross situation is bad. I'm hearing rumors and stuff that he's going to be speaking out very soon. So I got my eye on that very, very closely to hear what other things Karrion Kross might want to say. So let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. It's Bobby Monsoon to a fight, like, comment, subscribe. Bow!